Hello and welcome. So it's been a while since I've done one of these, and I have been thinking about other things, if I'm being completely honest, like our upcoming challenge. But Ta-Nagasei, Ta-Nagasei, what did I even name it? Oh, that's concerning, isn't it? It's been at the back of my mind. It's been at the back of my mind, and I've been thinking on and off what I'd like to do with it. And I decided that one of the things that I would like to do with it is talk more about the activity in the solar system, which may seem a little odd, but I've decided that I'd like there to be quite heavy solar storms. And if you remember, I said that magic was a natural force in this particular setting. And I made a couple of notes, and let me see. That's right. I said that I didn't want there to be electronics, which is going to be interesting because the non-magical kingdom will have a lot of steam, but I don't want there to be electrics. And I think what's going to happen is at some point or other, the non-magical kingdom will have developed electronics. And at this point, the activity in the solar system is going to be quite light. Maybe a couple of solar flares, but not a heavy series of sunspots. And so there aren't going to be very many solar storms. But I think every 500 years or so, and I may be contradicting what I've already said. I'd have to go back and watch the videos. My notes don't say anything about it, so should be fine. Again, I'm just thinking out loud here. I think every 500 years, 500 is a nice number, so maybe 497 years, there is a severe series of solar storms, and that can last for, say, 300 years or so, or maybe longer. Yeah, every 500 years and it only lasts for 300 years. Yeah, that doesn't make sense, does it? So it's going to have to be solar activity lasting for 500 years. And this is going to impact the magic of the world. And what it's going to do is it's going to really affect those who are on the world. And I think that when humans first gained magic, they were able to use it at any time. And so men and women would both use magic. But I think what I would like is for men to be able to use magic during summer and winter, and for women to be able to use magic during spring and autumn, and not during the rest of the year. And I think what I will do is I will say that these traditions began. And so the way magic was used grew and grew and grew. And as you remember, there were machines for using magic. And so when the solar storms hit, the traditions were already established. Yes, I think we'll say that they were already established. But there was a change. And I'm going to say that the solar radiation caused a mutation in the human genome. I mean, why not? It's fantasy. And so it altered the magic users' genes. Not all of the magic users, but most of the magic users, those who are practicing magic during the solar storms. And so this mutation spread, passed down through procreation and also exposure to radiation. And so I'm going to say that this was a dominant gene. And so you could still find rare magic users who are men who could use magic during spring and autumn, but that was a very rare recessive gene. And I know that's not entirely how genes work, but that's what we're going to go with because it's fantasy and it's magic. And that's what we're going to say. It's more that there are dominant and recessive traits, but that doesn't matter. The point is, we will use this. And so we'll say that magic has been affected due to the radiation poisoning. And so the bodies of the different practitioners have developed as a result of this. And so men can use magic during winter, and magic during summer. And women can use magic during spring and during autumn. Unfortunately, they've got each other covered. But they do have to work together in order to provide year-round coverage. And so you'll have mages who are studying rather than practicing during the times that they cannot actually wield magic. And of course, we've got the magical machines as well, which does help somewhat. And maybe this is one of the reasons that the machines were developed. And that's what we're going to be doing with that. So the magical continent will have seasonal mages, and the non-magical continent, the electrics won't work. And I have a feeling that I said that gunpowder was either a thing or it wasn't, and I don't remember off the top of my head. But I think that in response to the increased solar activity, there will be those in the non-magical kingdom who seek out different technologies. And I think that steam guns, steam cannons, would be one of the things that were developed as a result. And because I wanted this to be science fantasy, I think that there will be some kind of steam-powered mech. Now, ordinarily, a steam boiler using coal or wood should not be able to make a mech move. The mech would be too heavy. There wouldn't be enough pressure, and also the boilers could go wrong. But I think in this case, they will develop some kind of lightweight alloy, something like aluminium, and they probably have to have some kind of rod inside of it, some kind of spring in order to provide the rigidity and the strength. It would have to operate like some kind of skeleton. But we'll say that they develop these mechs, and they'll probably use a system of wires and pulleys, and the steam boiler with intense steam pressure, and it would have to be reinforced, which again would make it heavy, would have to be able to power this. And I think that the mechs would not be, there would not be single person mechs. I think that the pressure ratio, I want to say PSI, the steam pressure would not be sufficient to power a single piloted mech. So I think that what we're going to do is we're going to have crawlers instead. And those crawlers would have something like 20 legs. And so these would be more like land ships. And so they'd be walking up and down the countryside. And of course, you could ask, well, what's the point of that? But if you remember, they tried to have airships. And I think that while the airship was developed, and while it was very, very successful, I think that with the increased solar activity, there would be more meteor showers. And those meteor showers would prove to be hazardous to the airships. So instead, they developed these land crawling mechs. Now, why didn't they develop land trains? Well, the train is rugged. Maybe they simply wanted to be able to have the steam cannons on. But I also suspect that it will be partially cultural. And while trains would be good, I think that creating the rails would be a gargantuan task. I'm thinking that they would need either black powder or they'd need to employ Roman methods of destroying mountains, which is the fire starting method. And I don't think that they would have an abundance of labor for this. So I think that it might be more cost effective and fashionable. Let's never forget the power of fashion to develop walker mechs instead, crawler mechs. And that's how they would come about. And after the first one, proof of concept, everybody wants one. And so the major factions begin to build them. And I think that these would work rather well. And they would ferry people along, it would give them an elevated view, and they'd feel safe. And perhaps the weather might have something to do with why trains haven't fully been developed across country as well. Maybe it's because of monsters. Maybe the treants are still around. Maybe with the solar activity, it's caused some of the flora and fauna to mutate as well, and they have mutated, and magic within them has also mutated, and so they've become much more hyper-aggressive, and they would derail trains. All of this, as you can tell, is just a big, shall we say, excuse? Let's call it what it is, an excuse to come up with why they would have crawler mechs. But also, I want to see development. I want to see why things change. And so with these solar storms which show up, airships are no longer viable. And with the flora and the fauna being hyper-aggressive, travel between cities becomes very, very hazardous. So they develop these crawler mechs, and they put these steam cannons on. And so they'd also have to fuel them. So they'd have to burn something. And that can be decided later. But I'm thinking some kind of acid could be quite fun. Maybe vinegar and baking soda, something like that. So while they don't use magic, maybe they do use rock, and maybe they apply vinegar and baking soda to that rock, and that rock has been infused by magic. And maybe the non-magical kingdom doesn't know about this, or maybe they just don't care. Maybe they just want their crawler mechs. And so this is used to heat water to turn it into steam, the fuel for the boilers. And so this allows the crawler mechs. Meanwhile, on the magical kingdom, they continue to build their machines. And I think that with the flora becoming more aggressive and the fauna becoming more aggressive, they would turn to something similar. I think that they would try to shield their airships, maybe with magical shields, and they would use their machines to try to create force fields or barriers. And I'm not sure how effective that would be, particularly if you've got hyper-aggressive birds flying at them. It's one thing to try to block meteors, but it's another if you've got birds attacking you, particularly if the birds grow. So maybe they would develop something similar, or maybe they develop tanks with treads. So maybe they have magical powered tanks. Maybe they simply ground the airships for a while. Of course, tanks could be rather slow, but at least they won't be derailed. So I think that that's what we're going to see. We're going to see some form of tank powered by magic, and on the other continent, the non-magical continent, we'll have crawler mechs. And I think that's enough for now. So I'll be getting back to this when I get back to it. And I'm just going to check my notes to make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, that's everything. So we'll probably look at how it affects the elves and how it affects the dwarves. And I imagine that the solar storms would do something. So maybe the elves become more luminous. Maybe the dwarves will make them happy too. Closer to being near to volcanic energy. I mean, not quite the same, but closer. So maybe both the elves and the dwarves actually go through some kind of mutation. Not a evolution, because I don't particularly want species evolving. I prefer to see them mutate and adapt. So we'll have both the elves and the dwarves mutate. And I need to think on that. I need to think how it would alter them. But maybe it would let's make them more magically dead. Rather than make them more magically inclined, let's make them more magically dead. So let's cut off the elves and the dwarves from magic. So they become even less magical, which means that any exceptional magic users within their ranks would become very, very exceptional, which gives us groundwork for protagonists and characters, which I may look at next time. Anyway, if this video has been of interest to you, do feel free to like us. Feel free to share us with a friend, and do leave a comment and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. And if you're an aspiring writer of fantasy or science fiction, if you'd like help with your work, do drop me a line. I'd love to have a chat with you. And if you're a seasoned writer and you're in a slum, also let me know. I would love to talk to you about your project. I'd love to give you a hand. And again, I offer individual coaching sessions. We have a group program, and we're also having an upcoming challenge. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, I will see you next time. Bye for now.